Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to do an episode of Movie Spotlight. And since it is October, we're going to cover one of my favorite Italian horror movies by one of my favorite Italian directors, and that is 1971's A Bay of Blood from Mario Bava. And here's the thing about this movie is that, and a lot of people like to give a lot of credit to the proto slasher films, and by that I mean kind of the slasher films that happened before Halloween, because Halloween was kind of the one that set up all the ones that came after it in terms of the formula, the kills, that kind of thing. But there were movies that were around before Halloween that a lot of people would consider the proto slasher films. A lot of people credit Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which again I can understand that. Black Christmas was also another one that was basically a slasher film that was before Halloween. It was 1974, I believe. But this one in particular is very interesting to me because this was done by this is done by the Italians. This is before that a lot of the Splatterhouse stuff that happened in a lot of Italian movies after the fact. And Bava really outdoes himself in this movie, and that's the thing is a lot of these type of movies. And the thing with Bava though is that Bava again, in addition to his son Lamberto and his father Eugenio, they were all special effects guys. They all did miniatures and matte paintings, and Bava himself is, even though technically it's uncredited, he did a lot of the matte painting work for this film. He did a lot of the special effects work for this film, along with the actual credited special effects for person Rambaldi. But the thing is that Bava was very much ahead of his time when he did this film, and it kind of jump started a lot of the more gorier moments in Italian cinema that happened over the mid to late 70s. And I feel like a lot of American slasher films were influenced by this, with a few kills in particular, to be honest. Um, but really, I want to get into the meat of this because a lot of this movie doesn't have a lot of well-known actors in it. It's not like some of Argento's films, which gravitated in a lot of American actors over the years. It was mainly Italian. It's pretty much almost all Italian actors. And the movie itself, again, like most Italian films, is dubbed. Which, again, if that's something that kind of irks you, then I wouldn't suggest watching it. But the reason why I love the movie is because it's one of those things that's kind of like a whodunit, but everybody did it. It's a weird type of movie where um, one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And I'm not going to give a lot of the twists and stuff away, but this movie starts off with the gas pedal on 100, trying to fuck with your brain. Again, it's the opening scene of the film, and I'm not going to be giving away too much by just saying what the opening scene is, but basically somebody is murdered, and then the person who murders that person is then immediately murdered. So now we need to figure out why the first person was murdered, and then why the person who murdered the first person was also murdered, if that makes sense. But the other thing that I love about it is the special effects. There's a lot of gore effects in this movie that really work. There's a lot of those kind of like setup kills, almost like a Michael Myers type of thing, actually. There's a scene where one of the characters goes into this bathroom, and there's basically a bunch of bodies that are kind of set up behind them. And we see, like, I think it's a flash of lightning or something along those lines. And it lights up the back of the room, and they see in a mirror all of these, like, corpses that are kind of set up in the rear. And again, it reminds me a lot of like a Michael Myers type of kill where they set up the room. There is a kill later on in the film, or actually before that in the film, where two people who are having sex are impaled with a spear. And the spear goes through both of them. Again, almost an identical kill to Friday the 13th Part 2. Which leads me to believe that maybe Steve Miner or some of the other people that were involved in that movie had seen Bay of Blood, or if they just kind of came up with the same concept. In saying that, it is a decent concept that I could see, two different directors coming, or two different production crews coming up with. But the fact of the matter is it was about 10 years after that they did it. It was probably something that one of them had seen in a movie or something like that, because Bay of Blood was another one of those movies that was very different from stuff that Bava had done previously. Even though Bava had done stuff with gore in it and things like that, it had never been to the level that a Bay of Blood had decided to go to. And it was even to the point where Christopher Lee, who had worked with Bava on the film The Whip and the Body a number of years before that, I think that was 1964, 65, had basically come out and basically poo-pooed the film and said that it was, it was nothing more than just, gore. There was no substance. There was nothing to it. And again, this was coming from somebody that he had previously worked with, which I thought was odd. Again, considering also that Christopher Lee was the Hammer Dracula for many years, and some of those scripts were not the best. Let's put it that way. Even though they were very entertaining films, which, by the way, I would love to have those on DVD. But Bay of Blood just was kind of it was literally the proto slasher film. It was a slasher film that was made for 1980 and it came out in 1971. And I think that's maybe why it didn't find its audience for a very long time. Again, it wasn't like it was an unpopular film. But it was a film that kind of went under the radar. And again, it could have also been because he was an Italian director, and a lot of foreign movies wound up going to a lot of the grindhouse circuits and stuff around the United States and the drive-ins and things like that. It could have been because, he had kind of, I don't want to say petered out, but his career at that point was nearing its end. He had another I think 5-6 years left before he was doing his final film, but that was towards the tail end of his career. He had already made a lot of his fame. And it was actually his son Lamberto that kind of convinced him to kind of branch out and do films like A Bay of Blood, because he felt that it was kind of the new age thing, and he wasn't wrong. Because again, we see what happened only a few years later in 1978 when Halloween hit the scene. And Halloween actually had less gore than A Bay of Blood. We didn't really start seeing a lot of those heavy gore effects until we got to 1980 with Friday the 13th and Tom Savini. And even Tom Savini has admitted on several occasions, well, actually maybe it was before that because it was probably Dawn of the Dead in '79, but Tom Savini has admitted in a few cases that the Italians do gore extremely well, especially when he talks about basically their rip-off version of Dawn of the Dead, which is Lucio Fulci's Zombie, which I also did a movie spotlight on not long ago. But A Bay of Blood is one of those films that I encourage you to watch if you like slasher movies. I encourage you to watch it if you really do enjoy that type of a genre. I encourage you to watch it if you love Italian films. Again, it's one of those movies where it functions kind of like a giallo. And for those people that don't know what giallos are, they were basically kind of Italian murder mysteries and stuff like that would go into theaters. But every single person in a giallo is a fucking sleazebag. Every single one of them is a sleazebag. And it was always amusing to me because it's like everybody is a red herring in a giallo. It's not like a traditional murder mystery where it's like, oh, maybe this character did it or maybe that character did it. That character's probably innocent though. It's like everybody could have done it in a giallo film, and that's really what they kind of do in Bay of Blood, other than a few of the cannon fodder characters that you see at various points during the movie. Pretty much almost everybody is either a red herring or they are involved in some way, shape, or form in what's going on. And the plot of the film is also very simple. It really is just mostly there to facilitate why all these people are there and why people are getting killed. But it's mostly a battle between all these different extended family members over this lakefront property over a bay, or not lakefront, but oceanfront property over a bay. And that property is basically kind of up for grabs because the matriarch of the family is now deceased. So it's a battle between all those warring family elements, and everybody wants something, and nobody has any moral scrutiny at all. And some of the shots in it too, the quick cuts and the things that they do in it. Again, Bava is a master at editing. He is a master at special effects work. Again, like I said before, a lot of the special effects and especially the gore effects in this movie are amazing. But it's one of those movies that if you enjoy slasher movies, you will enjoy this movie. If you enjoy Italian movies, you will enjoy this movie. If you enjoy Mario Bava films, you will probably enjoy this movie. Another name that it goes under, by the way, is called Twitch of the Death Nerve, which I think is kind of a cool name, but I do prefer A Bay of Blood, which is the English dubbed version of it. But that's just kind of my opinions on this movie. I want to know what yours are. Are you a fan of Mario Bava? Are you not? Do you like Italian cinema, more specifically Italian horror and the giallo genre from Italy? Have you seen A Bay of Blood? Have you not? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe. And remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?